Well, wait, sorry, wrong franchise. Good morning, everybody who has Halloween hangover. No, yesterday wasn't the 31st. You didn't miss half the month. We'll talk about that. We've also got Cameron here to talk a little Disney business. And I went into space. So yeah, we're here. Good morning, good morning. Hello, Andre.
Good morning. Hope everyone is doing great today.
I hope so too. We also have with us Kamran Pasha. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well, gentlemen. Thank you for always for having me on, and I think we're gonna have a fun and exciting show here.
Indeed, you do. We're gonna have a bit of a show before Friday night afternoon or Friday afternoon tights. Is that what it would be? Something. Like
yeah, it sounds about like Friday afternoon.
It's morning where he's
tights.
at, so he's been calling it Friday morning tights. But yeah.
So yeah, So for those that do
Still
not know,
here though.
Gary will be going on Tim Pool, which is awesome, and for that reason, Friday Night Tights is pushed up, and since Tom is in Friday Night Tights, we're going to try to keep a relatively brisk show today. That doesn't mean that we don't have a great show for you, because we do. What we have here is going to be a really, really tight, focused, information-dense show, because we have the great seer, Kamran Pasha, ready to comment on the most recent Disney developments. Kamran, how are you?
I'm well, and I'm excited to jump in. It looks like another one of my prophecies is playing out, but not necessarily yet. We're seeing, I think, the illusion of my prediction coming true, but it's a setup.
Yeah, I sent Andre that article, and I'm just like, look at this shit.
Yeah, we did that on Wednesday, and we were like, Kamran.
But
we have the topic for Friday.
About the strategy here, because the game's not over yet.
Oh,
yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too.
We do have a member,
seems way too simple.
We have Terry Lowe, who is a YouTube member. Let's see if I can see which level over here on this side. We have her as a new Midnighter, it looks like.
Yeah, welcome to Midnighter. So welcome, Terry. Awesome to have you here. And
we're working on doing like a international member stream here. We're calling it that just because of the time of the day we're going to do it.
Exactly, but it's open for everyone, so don't you worry.
Absolutely. So hey, listen out for that, so you guys can hop in and talk to us later this week, or maybe even this weekend. I mean, but yeah, we also have like Eagle Fang here. Welcome. We have Jason Gray. We have Jet Sparks 373. We have Bob A. We have Lindsay with a wrench. How you doing, Lindsay? We got Chef Nation in the chat. Hopefully you got some sleep. I got about 2 hours, maybe 3.
Yeah, hey, Jeff.
Were you guys up late last night?
Yeah, I stayed up to watch Halloween, and we did a 3
They were up so late that I could join them after I delivered the kids to school and kindergarten.
We'll talk about it. I haven't seen. I'm going to see Halloween this weekend, but up or down from you? Thumbs up or down from you?
I gave it a thumbs up. I'll get into that a little bit.
Oh, we'll get
because
Tom, you did not give it a thumbs up. You gave it 2 thumbs up and a massive roaring applause.
I guess
that's good to hear. That's
because I had to come back, because here he is, right here, Steven, aka Deleted Scene. First thing he says is, "This is the last Jedi of Halloween films." I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, he gave it thumbs down, with like stabbing motions down.
Well, I have my critiques of the last Halloween film, and so I'd like to see what they did here.
I did too.
And so, but you feel this is better than the last one, huh?
What I said to Andre was, this movie retroactively made the last movie better, and I made this grand speech ahead of my review, because I had this epiphany while I'm watching a movie. It's like I see what Martin Scorsese is saying. It's like this is not a movie anymore. This is just fun, because this isn't a whole movie even as itself, right? Like, this is the middle part of a story. This is like basically a glorified streaming series, is what it is.
With a very large budget for
exactly, and actually not that big a budget compared to shit like Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah,
stop and think about it.
It's only big budget compared to like the first installment of like Insidious and Paranormal Activity. And
it
stuff
only cost
like that.
$18 million to make.
Exactly,
they've made their money back already.
Oh yeah.
Here's the other thing. Well, first of all, last night I got word of when it was dropping, so I let everybody know what was going on there, because it actually came out a little bit earlier than we're used to with like HBO Max. And then last night I found out, which is weird, through our chat, no less. And this news dropped right before we dropped our video.
Never underestimate the chat.
That the movie is going from Peacock to HBO Max on October 22nd in some unprecedented move. So I said to Andre, I said, well, they paid for it. It's paid for.
So I can watch it right now on Peacock for free?
Yeah. Well, you got to pay.
You can watch it right now on Peacock for an extra premium surcharge. That way you get a bitrate starved 1080p transfer in stereo sound. Or you can you see it in theaters in like proper sound, and then I imagine when it comes on HBO Max, it's probably going to be in 4K with everything. Yeah.
All right, well, that's fine.
Yeah, because it does look like garbage on fucking Peacock.
Well, Peacock is because there's Little House on the Prairie on Peacock. I'll watch Little House on the Prairie on Peacock. Yeah.
No, I know, but I mean their streaming quality is like we've picked on HBO Max. Ain't got shit on Peacock. Peacock is trash as far as like the quality. The content's great, but their streaming quality and their sound quality and their navigation is the shittiest of the shittiest of all of them.
And it's only available in the US exclusively. So way to exclude international audiences from seeing it on streaming. That's good though, because that means everyone internationally that wants to see it are gonna have to pay some box office dough for the pleasure.
Well, the other side of it though is if you have HBO Max on the 22nd, you'll be able to see it. So Warner Brothers gave Uni some money. And because I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, this movie's going to be paid for. But no, this movie is like paid for 3 times over now, probably. Because we already know that Jason Blum graciously gave it to Peacock for a fee. And then he obviously made this deal with HBO Max as well. So I guarantee you the movie's paid for and then some. But we have Steven, as I said here, with a $5 super chat. He says, hail Andre, Tom, Cameron, Wrenches, and chat. Glad to see everyone made it in after our late night session. Yeah, we all have a little Halloween hangover, guys.
Indeed. And then we have to make one jump here. We have to be serious for one moment after we welcome Uncle Brett, who also became a Midnighter. So welcome to you. But then I want to jump forward a little bit to Hypergiver 2, who says, so I need all your positive vibes for my dad, who is undergoing open heart surgery later today. Man. Hypergiver, you have all our best wishes, and we'll keep fingers and toes crossed and pray to whatever deity everyone in the chat refers to praying to. Send positive vibes.
Hypergiver 2, can I be audacious enough to give you a little bit of a spiritual thing that might help? If nothing else, it might give you peace during this process. Use your imagination. Take some time. I know you're going to be worried for your dad. But set yourself, go in a room somewhere quietly for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then just imagine seeing your dad out of the surgery, back to normal, mobile, happy, giving you a hug, healthy. Take your time to imagine that, make that feel so real that you feel the emotions of it. And with God's grace, you're going to experience exactly that.
Yes, that's good advice, and we will be keeping you in our thoughts.
Absolutely.
So everyone, positive thoughts to Hypergiver 2, valued member of our community, as are you all.
Yeah, and I've been there, man. So I'm all my energy is heading out for you as positive as can be, man. So Organic Vistas is sent us one in just before that, though, that said, Chapek has begun writing the ship badly, listing and off course. I applaud you for standing for what's right. This Jew loves you all. Well, thank you, Organic Vistas.
Shalom, Organic Vistas. I don't know if we've interacted or you've interacted with on another name, but I'm delighted to connect with you.
Yes, indeed. And that's something that I love. It's like here, on this channel, this general community, we have true diversity. People from all over the world, across all faiths, across all kinds of political spectrums, because there's more than those in the US, coming together, united by what we love and what binds us together, rather than what drives us apart. So yeah, let's stick with that. And on that note, says for $4.99. Hi, gents. Hello, everyone.
So, since you are a lovely lady, why don't you come join us? We have a lack of lovely ladies.
I can send her a link.
Please do if she's available.
Yeah.
We had her up
if you have the opportunity, if you can't, if you're like busy traveling or something, then obviously no pressure. But if you have the opportunity to join, I'm sending you the link. And Tom, what do we have next? So let's just get
Terry Lowe sends in another super chat.
And Terry Lowe says for 10 Canadian dollars, thanks for the welcome. Just here to enjoy the show, and thanks for a year of watching, which has helped me keep my sanity in this land of lonely cowboys and nervous cattle.
Did you say to cowboys?
All hail to all of you. Well, all hail my fellow northerner across the pond.
They said cowboys.
Wait, is he in Sweden or something?
No, in Canada. I said across the pond.
Okay.
I could have said across the fjord, which is like more fun, but that's more of an in joke. So yeah.
So you guys in the north, you're doing great. I understand that Norwegian, not only is Norway returned to normal, as in no more masks, nobody's asking anybody.
No, nothing. It's all completely done. It's all completely over.
And the Norwegian airline say you can take this thing off your face. What am I doing here? I gotta move to Scandinavia. What's happening? Like the last place of sanity.
And it's the same thing in Denmark. Denmark too. They have we had like someone go like Legolas in a city like a couple of days ago.
But that's crime. That happened.
After Rogan kind of busted CNN, and then you turn around and I saw this headline yesterday, and again, I'm not a doctor, but this was a headline. It said it may help you with immunity if you get it after you get the jab. I'm like, are you fucking?
It's funny. Who suggested that? Rogan suggested that. He said it to Gupta in his show, and he was like, "What? Are you serious?" And here you have CNN saying exactly the same thing. So good times.
Look, this is anything that gets us back to normal. I will take, but I think the truth of what we're dealing with in the media has been revealed to anyone who wants to see it. And if you still don't understand what's happening, it's just because you don't want to understand what's happening. So whatever.
Yeah.
And all I will say is that I have never ever been more grateful to be in Norway than right now, because seriously, all restrictions are lifted. And employers,
we are about to go in. You got to have your papers, please, Nazi Germany, just to go into the theater.
By contrast, in Norway, you know what? An employer is banned from asking you your vaccination status because that's private.
Which is I remember the good old days when when our personal medical history remained that. Whatever.
I mean, for an employer, even just asking you, like not mandating you, but just asking the question, is a reportable offense.
Man, I love your socialized medicine economy. I want to go there.
Let's
get back to Crazy Hollywood. Let's get back here.
Peter Quincy Taggart says for $9.99, hail Andre, Tom, and Kamran. Glad to be able to finally watch you live. And we're so glad that you can join us too. Everyone, please smash that like and please help share this stream and go watch the most recent videos we put out too, because the algorithm is beating the hell out of us right now, and it's not showing it's not showing our videos. It's not alerting subscribers that new videos are up now.
I know we've got a somewhat shorter episode today, but I hope we can throw in a second to talk about what's happening with Dave Chappelle, because today there was, one of his critics came out and angrily said to Ted Sarandos, the head Netflix says, stop.
Let's do that now. Let's take 2 minutes on that now before we get into the main topic, while everyone is getting their popcorn and getting ready.
Exactly. So this critic is a comedian who I don't really know, but it's a comedian. Okay, a woman came out and said, Netflix, stop following these, quote, amoral algorithms instead of following morality. And what they mean is that the algorithms of Netflix are saying that this is one of their highest rated things, and then bringing in viewers, and people are subscribing to see this special, right? So economically, Chappelle is the way to go, right? But that's amoral when it goes against a certain narrative, and now we're seeing so far Netflix is holding strong, because at the end of the day, as I've always said, Hollywood is about this, right? And they've reached a stage where they realize that the audience isn't on board with the anti-Chappelle crap. They're just not. And if they were to pull that special to make 0.02% of the population happy, it's going to be economic disaster for them. This is a major wake-up call, and the shrillness of the sort of the fanatical woke crowd when they realize nothing's happening. Netflix isn't budging. It's not moving. That their realization that they're losing control of the public narrative inside of Hollywood is causing panic like I've never seen.
Well, that's because I think that's part of what Dave was saying in the special was that, basically right now, the trans community owns all the cards. All they have to do is cry transphobe, and instantly everything pounces on it and kills it.
I would personally use the word trans activist, because I think the community just wants to be left alone. They just want to live their lives normally, but there are these people that speak on their behalf.
I was gonna say you're right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they're just people who speak on their behalf who are a very small percentage, even people that care about that community. So yeah. So, but yeah, and that's these activists are realizing their bullhorn has no power anymore.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No. Because I, being a conservative religious Muslim with traditional views on sexuality, can be accused of being transphobic, and I don't want to be that person, and I'm not that person, right? So I just want to clarify how we use language here. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, but I agree, and I just hope that more people will look into what Netflix is doing with the algorithm, and they're looking into is this actually earning us money? I mean, many people call Netflix wokeflix, and they have done some questionable things. Like, for instance, if the feedback that Kevin Smith got from them over Masters of the Universe Revelation, where they were like, never mind the fans being angry, don't matter. We're safe. I don't believe that. Yeah. But if that actually happened, that shows that there's a huge level of detachment from reality. But if the Chappelle numbers are so strong that they're going to stand their ground, then good. More power to them. Yeah, I wish that more people would do that. On this particular matter, Gordon Gekko is a fictitious character that has been abused, and when I say abused, I mean that his message has been abused by many people and fines and stuff like that. Yeah. But he's fundamentally right in that greed, for lack of a better term, is good. If you want to make some kind of change in the world, no matter to what, you have to get the people with money and financial interest behind you. Then you have to make it profitable for them. So follow the money, and that's when things happen. I mean, that's how we beat the current predicament in Hollywood, is simply by voting with our wallets, because that's a vote that can't be ignored, at least not for too long.
Absolutely. And, and that vote that was ignored for several years by who was in charge, a large, like I said, what I've talked about on this channel so many times, the club, which are third generation heirs of the founders of Hollywood, who are sitting, plush on their great granddaddy's money. And these are people that don't understand the concept of entrepreneurialism and servicing a market like their parents and their grandparents did. And so, of course, they were going to be hostile to that idea because they see themselves as aristocrats and they see all of us as sort of cattle. However, that has burned itself out at this point, especially after the last couple of years and the world we're in right now, where you go to the supermarket in Los Angeles, you might not have bread, right? I mean, it's that crazy world. No one has time for nonsense right now. Everyone's got to pay their bills.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, is there more to say about the Chappelle topic other than Netflix are thankfully firmly standing their ground?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a moment, and Chappelle's been working for this moment. With each special, he's tried to get to that place, but he's gotten to that place right now, where even in the last special, people didn't come out the way they're coming out right now, where they're having Netflix employees, break into private meetings of executives in order to give a speech, right? That's the action of people losing their control of a narrative, which was what Chappelle was trying to get to. Chappelle was trying to get us to a place where we could be human again and be normal, right? And have, as he said in his special, right? He's not against anyone. He's just trying to be normal, trying to engage us, right? And we have to be able to do that as human beings.
Well, did you see Cameron? I became a small part of this story.
How did you become a small part of this story? What happened?
Well, when I quote unquote sneezed earlier and said, excuse me, what I was sneezing under my breath was Wilson Cruz. Because if you don't know who Wilson Cruz is, he's a actor who's on Star Trek Discovery. He was on.
He's first and foremost, he's an activist. He's an activist first, and second, he's an actor on Star Trek Discovery, where he gets to be one of the segregated gays on the show.
Wait, I don't watch that show at all. They're like, well, this is the area of the Enterprise where all the gay people hang out. Is that how this works?
Yes, that's exactly.
Sort of. What is this crap?
It's actually more so that you have a doctor and the science guy are the gay couple, and then they introduced
with no chemistry whatsoever.
Yeah, then they introduced a non-binary couple this last year. So basically, the four of them all hang out together, and that's it. Like
away from all of the disgusting cis people.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man! This is the exact antithesis of what Roddenberry.
But anyhow, Cruz was out there.
This is 300 years from now. This is what's happening 300 years from now.
Right. And then Cruz was out there the other day, just going after Netflix, going, "This is how you treat trans people on National Coming Out Day." Blah 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 blah. And so I retweeted it with way to bury the lead there and conflate things, considering these individuals bursted into a fucking meeting unannounced, and of course nobody was talking about the other two. They were just bringing up the trans employee, and I said, and they're like, well, did you stop to think of maybe why they felt like they had to do that? Sit your ass down, he came back to me at. And then it just went into this back and forth, and Lorena got involved, and it was fun. And Ricky was being a moron, and it just was ridiculous. But we also have a new member, Daniel Linkskog. Sorry, I didn't mean to say Lincoln. Linkskog is your name, and welcome. Let me see what
Daniel Lindskog. He sounds like a countryman of mine, or possibly a Dane.
And it's so far back.
Anyway, welcome, Daniel Lindskog.
Or maybe I got to go forward. That's the difference. Okay, here we go. We got NTN Falador, who's also been a member for 7 months, and says, "Let's go, Brandon."
Yeah, everyone. That would be a member chat.
Yes, that is our member chat from him. And then we had welcome to the Viking level, Daniel. So thank you for being a Viking.
Wow.
We got Organic Vistas coming back again. Says 12-hour shift done. Glad to hear it. Nurse, your show relaxes me after stressful day. Or stressful work. Sorry. Glad to hear that as well. I'm also always fascinated by the honest talk. You all and Rogan are tops. Well, thank you. I don't know about that, but
absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you, Organic Vistas, and thank you for the amazing job that you and every other nurse does. Seriously, hospitals everywhere would fall apart without the nurses.
Yeah, but now they're all Rambos. Hey, yo, you got something wrong with you? Too bad. I'm National Guard. You're shit out of luck. You got me wanting to shoot some bad guys. I can do this. Yeah,
you want me to? Okay, fine. I'll laugh. Well, he wants me to laugh.
We need to get the laugh track for those dead silences.
I know. No, we don't. Because they just remind Tom of why he shouldn't do that.
Keep moving.
C-Man says, speaking of amoral algorithms, they want tech companies to put a thumb on the scales of data. They call it fairness. What the fuck?
Yeah, of course they do. This is equity in everything.
I love this term equity, because if there's nothing more communist than that, at least equality was a fake pretend to achieve equality. Equity is not even about equality. It's about what is fair based on what I think. There's nothing more communist than that.
Exactly. No, I like equity is we did a whole video on it where we showed equity in practice. You're still left outside the stadium while the club is inside and enjoying things up close. So yeah, but anyway, let's run through these last super chats, and then we're going to get into
we got a few more here.
Main topic here. Peter Smigelski says it seems like the pendulum swings both ways. Netflix doesn't care what people think about, and then it disappeared before I could finish reading it. So thank you, Tom. There we go.
I was trying to get rid of the cam girls thing.
Okay. Care what people think about more woke shows like He-Man or Dr. Chappelle. Well, at least they're equal opportunity in their screwing up realistic algorithm.
What it is this. So let's look at the difference, right? Okay. Shows like He-Man, whatever, were clearly pushed by people who had an agenda about that narrative, right? And it shows that remember, I deal with Netflix executives. They tend to be young people, right? They're not necessarily 70 years old who's been through the long journey, right? And so they're like, hey, man, wasn't that a thing like a while back, right? And so they will be easily pushed by two things. One is, oh, He-Man, wasn't that a thing a while back? Okay, there must be a market for it.
In this particular thing, we know a little bit more about what it's like. It's one guy. It's one guy at Netflix. It's Ted Biaselli. And he is someone who is in the unfortunate position of being an activist first.
Okay, so that's his agenda.
But also, he is genuinely a He-Man fan. He's just extremely atypical. So he knows all of the lore. He knows all the characters. He's the one that basically is like micromanaging the show for Kevin Smith. He's like the one that's saying, do this, do that, have this and this stuff like that in there. Because that's his activism that supersedes his fanboyism.
Exactly. So that's fine. Right. And so now we have the answer, the executive there. Where Chappelle is a known quantity to the entire system, right? And to the big boss around us, right at the very top. And he's known quantity for decades. And he's a very profitable quantity. So they're not going to mess with that. They're just not going to mess with that because Chappelle has already proven that you can't mess with him. As he points out in the special, he walked away from $50 million when he was offered that after the Chappelle show, where basically he would do that, but he would have to become a spokesman for the club, right? That he would have to tailor his comedy for the system, which is what they do. I mean, that's how they co-opt people as you rise up. And when Chappelle actually says that out loud, he just took the curtain off the Wizard of Oz, because that's how it always works. That in order to become a top celebrity generally in this town, when you reach a certain point, the industry approaches you and says, okay, you're going to be part of the club. We're going to buy you out, but now you're going to be one of us and you're going to serve our agenda. And we've seen that with Mr. Feige. We've seen that with others, right? As they enter the club. Chappelle is one of the more incredible people that walked away from that. And he was out of the game for 10 years because of that. And then he came back, he took it back with his bare hands. No one's ever going to take it away from him, not Netflix or anyone else. Netflix were to cancel this, he'll put out a YouTube special that's going to explode YouTube's following, right? So he's an unstoppable force now because he said no to the club. And he took his lumps. So yeah, so that's why they're like not going to mess with this guy, because he's already walked away. He canceled himself. How can he cancel Dave Chappelle?
Yeah. And also on that note, you mentioned like the club. There is, before we move on, there is a music video that I highly recommend everyone see, because that music video is reality. So okay. I'm just going to see if I can't bring it up on screen.
Does it have hot people like Dua Lipa? Is it like... Is lovely Dua Lipa in there? She's kind of
no, she is not in there. Here is a link to a music video. Everyone watching, if you haven't seen it before, you should check it out. This video is reality. It's a video from the early 1980s. It's by a band called Ultravox. Okay. It is called Hymn. The story of the song and the video is the deal that Chappelle declined, basically a deal with the devil. And that is how you really, really get to be an A-lister. And I feel we can talk about it more in this particular context, because Chappelle made it so clear that's the deal that he declined.
Yeah, and I wasn't approached with $50 million. I was approached with a very lucrative project, and it was actually made very clear to me that it was a project where I would have to cater my personal beliefs to the people behind the scenes and for propaganda. It was made clear when I said, no, I don't want to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. They said, no, that's not how we're going to do it. And no, you don't have a say in that, but we'll make you famous and rich and you're going to be the showrunner of this show. And I walked away from that. And so I know that they didn't offer me $50 million, but that is a real thing. Let's see that video.
What I got here, and we're not going to be able to sadly watch this whole thing because it's like 10 minutes long. I'll have it on 1.5 speed, but fellow YouTuber Scribelight put this together. This video basically shows, and he put this out in 2018, shows Netflix doing everything that we've been accusing all these guys of doing all this time.
Mm-hmm.
So check this out. This is kind of like, just like, seriously.
Are you going to copyright strike me?
Hunted. No, it shouldn't be. Because he sent this to me, so I don't think he'll strike us for it.
Hopefully it's not Avengers. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't see why it would.
Well, we're not gonna do the whole thing. We're just gonna see a couple.
Yeah, we're just gonna see a part of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is a series of videos from Netflix discussing Netflix culture myths, and apparently the next myth to be tackled just got punted, since it's going to be an awkward one to discuss, I imagine. Now, I had no idea that there were any Netflix culture myths, but apparently Netflix thinks they're prevalent enough that they need to produce some public relations insulation. So, what just got punted? Inclusion and diversity? Oh boy, my favorites!
How is Netflix doing for inclusion and diversity?
Awkward pause.
Well, I'll start off in regards as to the amazing work that Miles has been spearheading with
Miles and Team.
See, look, I love that. With creating Strong Black Lead.
Strong Black Lead.
Yeah.
Okay. What is that? Spearheaded by a group of Black executives at Netflix, Strong Black Lead, quote, represents an intentional focus from Netflix to talk authentically with the Black audience, unquote, said Maya Watson-Banks in an interview with the Los Angeles Times.
So yeah, basically, this is just showing that they were doing all this stuff that we've been saying they've been doing all this time, right? They don't give a shit about actual characters. They just want a strong Black lead in there.
Yeah. I mean, this is nothing new for me. I mean, I hear the strong Black lead, strong woman lead. I hear this kind of mantra all the time. What's interesting is that Dave Chappelle is a strong Black lead. And he's presenting a very authentic perspective from the Black community about certain topics that are controversial. And it's not the same as the woke narrative. And as we're beginning to see, what Hollywood is beginning to face is that the Black community is speaking out on topics that are not the official narrative, particularly, let's say, putting things in your arm. And it's not what Hollywood wants to hear. And so they're facing the struggle of how do they pretend they actually care about Black people when they don't want to present their points of view. And that's the inner battle right now in Hollywood.
Well, like I was just part of the reason I brought this up too is because we're praising Netflix for standing their ground. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget that this is the same company that stood their ground about cuties as well.
Well,
so,
as I said, they're equal opportunity in standing their ground. So
again, Chappelle is special because Chappelle makes the money. Does that mean
exactly?
He gives them the money that allows them to be activists on other things. That's kind of like the
exactly like he's funding their wokeness in another part of the company. He's making them so much money. Look, this is the battle this town has always had about pretending to care about certain things when it doesn't, right? It's the battle with Mel Gibson, and Mel Gibson's a very different person than Dave Chappelle. I think Mel Gibson has some real demons that I don't think Chappelle has, right? I don't think Chappelle my heart tells me Chappelle is not the bigot he's portrayed as, whereas Mel Gibson, I think he's got some bigotry issues, right? I think he really does. But when this town wanted to make money with him, they forgave him everything.
No. Lay off of him, sugar tits.
I'm kidding. Filmmaker, but I think he's got some. When you're drunk, your true soul is revealed. I think he's got to work that stuff out.
I do hope you got the sugar tits line. That's one of his things.
Yeah, yes. I got the line.
Hey, sugar tits.
I got the line when he said to the cop. I got it. Yeah.
Dash Attack says, what impact is Squid Game having on Netflix? It was one of the best shows I've ever seen from Netflix. Well, I saw an article that said it's a modest hit for Netflix. So I have no idea how well it's doing, if they're trying to subdue it in some way. Or
it was number 1 in Norway.
Yeah, so I don't know why they would say it's this modest hit. I'm like, everybody's fucking talking about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this since like Tiger King.
Basically.
So I mean, I don't know the answer as to why they would de-emphasize that when it seems to be a cultural phenomenon. That's all I haven't seen it, but I keep hearing about it, right, all the time. So it's clearly having a cultural impact. So I don't know what they're maybe I think North Korea came out against the show, so maybe there's some political stuff behind the scenes, or maybe some scenes with stuff with China that we don't know about that's happening culturally within Netflix, and maybe they don't want to talk about it too much. I don't know.
I mean, I'm supposed to watch it. I haven't got a chance to sit down and check it out yet. I've heard a lot of things about it, but I'm kind of still oblivious about it too at the same time. So I don't know much of anything about it other than what little I've seen about it. So I'm hoping to check it out soon and see what it's all about.
And Ari says for €5, like you guys and your audience is diverse, but sometimes lately you talk too much politics without cinema context. Don't create your own bubble. Totally fair. You're right. And I'm really sorry about that. We really try to keep things apolitical here. But the challenge, as we say, is that our entertainment has been politicized at almost every level, and so has every single distribution platform. And that's it's a challenge, and it's difficult.
It's hard, and sometimes
to talk around it when it's so central and it's so vital in determining what gets brought on screen and how it gets brought on screen. Like, for instance, it's exceedingly difficult to discuss a movie like, Ghostbusters, No Time to Die, Star Wars, Star Trek. Which other movies are out like in the last 5 years? When every single thing almost has become politicized. We don't want to talk about it. And we try to be as fair and neutral.
Prime example. The first thing that everybody asks about every movie is it woke? Like, that's the latest question. Like, the first question on most.
That's the first question I get for Dune. Like the first, and that was like the major
first question we got for Bond. Is it woke? Right? I mean, it's the first.
Exactly, and I understand the question, and I understand the question. When everything has been made woke, why would you not ask it when everything is sacrificed on that altar?
And absolutely. So,
our
like, again,
being politicized, we don't want it to be.
I will say this, Aries. I think that we've done a pretty good job in this community of having a pretty diverse group of people with different political backgrounds. Like, that's the beauty of it. Outside of a few people who are very outspoken on their politics, you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of people on the in the YouTube sphere we have here where you could probably pinpoint their actual politics. Like, I mean, they may talk a certain way or sound a certain way, but I think that's where we've just learned. That's where the pendulum has swung. Like,
and not only that, the goalposts have shifted so far that someone that traditionally would be left wing, unless they are in complete lockstep with a certain narrative, then they're assigned right wing, which is completely ridiculous.
Right. A good friend of mine who I would consider lefty left Bernie Sanders kind of guy, right? In Hollywood, a big time screenwriter. You know, you've seen his movies, and he sent me a message yesterday to out of nowhere, DM message saying, man, this Lord of the Rings shows, it's going to suck, isn't it? I was like surprised to get that message from him. I was like, yeah, it's probably going to suck. He's like, why does everything have to be woke? And this is covered Mr. This lefty Bernie Sanders dude, right? And he's a big screenwriter. He's like, why can't Lord of the Rings just be Lord of the Rings, right? And so, you know, his politics are very different from my politics, but we share this thing that he thought that political narratives are infesting good storytelling. And he sent that to me out of nowhere yesterday. Obviously, it's on his mind.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, but we try to keep it neutral, and we're not going to be screaming "Go, Brandon, go" any more than strictly necessary. So yeah.
And yeah, you know, look, and I'm not going to go into politics, but in the sense that, you know, my politics, everyone thinks they know it, but I got lots of critiques of the last guy. I got lots of critiques of this guy. So I try to keep myself to not be about people, but about principles. I try to be that person. And so whatever my beliefs are, I try not to be a political team. I try to have an ethical principle that I hold everybody to, hopefully including myself.
I can say this about the Let's Go Brandon thing, unlike when there was TDS in the world. because it went on both sides. I mean, I'm not saying everybody, but there was both sides of the equation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You had like everything is wrong to the can do no wrong crowd. So you had both sides.
In this case, though, I will say, at least with the Let's Go Brandon thing, it seems like everybody at least is having a sense of humor about it. Like, I haven't seen a shit ton of Karens out there going,
it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, because what it is, it's a social commentary. It's not actually about anything except that how the media attempts to misrepresent what we're seeing with our own eyes in order to try to control narrative. It's a commentary on that. That's what that thing is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, just to bring in a counterpoint, after Revkor, who says, and Crowder gets suspended for telling an actual story of a kid pretending to be trans to dolphin love. Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. I don't want any more. I would say it's freaking disgusting. And check out the Daily Wire for more details.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're the only ones covering it.
You know, look, these are the tragic things of, you know, when you attempt to socially re-engineer society while you've got millions of years of human programming biologically. You know, there's going to be some terrible things that happen out of it. And to pretend that it's not possible is part of the Let's Go Brandon moment where you can't talk about the possibilities of something going wrong when you attempt to socially re-engineer men and women.
And I don't normally get into these kind of topics because, to go off of what Ari said before, we don't try to. But like, this is the kind of example that I guess a lot of people were talking about a couple of years ago, and I can understand it and I can see where it's coming from. It's like, yeah, we're not demonizing an entire group of people. Nobody's saying that everybody in this group is a horrible person, but what you're doing is opening the door for horrible people to take advantage of the situation. Like, that's what we have here. And when you have that possibility,
and bringing it to media, the problem is when you have the media and Hollywood attempting to prevent even that conversation, you know, then you're going to have bad outcomes in the real world.
Indeed,
absolutely.
Go back to that one. You gotta go back to that one. That's
I'm gonna go back to it, but I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna steal this from you, Cody. I like this. Activist. Yes, activists.
Activists.
We've got too many activists.
Yeah. And then we had Peter Quincy Taggart. Yeah, and he says for $9.99. I'm one of Kamran's Patreon supporters. I'd like to thank him for the interesting essays and pics he posts. And I agree with that. Kamran Pasha's Patreon is one of a kind, with the same kind of insights that you get here. Kamran writes all the time without the rest of us prattling and distracting and stuff like that. And so go and check out Kamran Pasha's Patreon. Link for that is in the description. Kamran, what more do you want to say about it?
No, first of all, I want to thank you, Peter, for saying that. Thank you for joining. You know, this Patreon that I've set up, it's been on just about a month now. We have nearly 100 subscribers already, which on Patreon terms is very fast. And you know, the response I'm getting from, because I'm sharing from the heart a lot of stories, and some of the details I can't always say publicly because it's a private channel, right? The Patreon. I can share a lot of stories and misadventures that I've had, which I think give new perspectives on Hollywood. I've shared my perspectives on storytelling, and as a result, now people who've read my essays on the art of storytelling, they're actually coming to me as consulting clients, and I've actually now been getting people in the Patreon sending me scripts and that I consult with them on, and it's becoming a whole bigger community than I expected it to be. So thank you for that. And this channel has allowed me to promote that. So thank you to Andre and Tom.
Yeah. Nintendo Power sends in $10. Thank you so much. It says Canada is fucked. EPA is forcing cleaning air.
Are you sure it's the CA? Are you sure it's not California?
Oh, California could be too.
Yeah, it's California or Canada? It's California. No, it's California.
Canada is California. I'm pretty sure that CA is the short for California.
Yeah, you're probably right because he has NY down here.
Yeah,
too.
It's American dollars. So
yeah, we have all these ships basically, you know, in Long Beach port, which can't get into the country.
Yeah. Well, let me finish reading it.
Well, read there's a super chat to give some context. I will just say it's a good thing that we have a Norwegian on the panel who is able to recognize the state codes. So,
well, I recognize that, but like I'm so used to seeing the Canadian thing with the thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I know they're not doing much better.
But anyway, moving on. Will you read the whole thing, Tom?
Yes, and not only that. Now that the chat jumped on me, accidental tourist as a Canadian concurs with me.
No. I meant Nintendo Powers. I'll do it then.
I know, but I was just saying.
Just read the damn chat. Read it.
Okay. EPA is
Let me read
forcing
it.
clean air emissions to keeping ships from docking because trucks aren't allowed to carry freight in the state. Ships have to sail to New York through the Panama Canal.
Panama Canal.
Yeah. Doubling travel time. Yeah. Oh, this is all going to come to a head.
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of what we're seeing in certain other areas is going to spread.
Yeah, I mean, look, California is an incredibly mismanaged, communist state at this point, and it literally is communism. I mean, it's one man rule. It's been one man rule now for almost 2 years, where the legislature is there to just rubber stamp, right? It's given this idiot, Newsom complete power, and at some point you begin to wonder: is this guy actually the Manchurian candidate? Because the only thing he's doing is making everyone flee the state, and then wealthy Chinese people buy it all up. It's literally like a strange thing, and so. California's. I live here. It's falling apart, and now it's beginning to affect the whole country. And I don't know how much longer that's going to stand.
Yeah, and there's people agreeing with me in the chat though that it could be in Canada too, as bad as Canada is right now. That's what I.
It could be true for many places, and we have Yellow Flash in the chat here.
Hail, brother, how you doing?
Yeah, and if you have the opportunity to come on, then absolutely. But we have to. I'm going to do one or two more super chats, then we really have to get into the main story here.
We do, and my apologies to all of you. We get swept away with this community, but you're watching this to get our perspectives on some stuff, and we want to get it to you as soon as possible. So
yeah. But before that, before we get into chaos comments here, Vololos says for 2,500 Chilean pesos. Muchas gracias. I completely disagree with Aries. It's important to talk about how this political propaganda affects entertainment. It's imperative fighting back. And we're all about context and taking the bigger view, and that unfortunately is part of it. And with that, speaking of that bigger view, without further ado, let us get into the big news that's been on the Disney Civil War front since last week.
Yeah, this is very big. And it's
we
something
had,
that I predicted. In fact, I did predict.
You did predict it, because what happened is that there was a story in, let's see, because we have a retelling of it from small screen. Tom, can you bring that up on screen, or shall I? There we go.
Got it.
How Kevin Feige praises Bob Chapek after Black Widow lawsuit.
Yeah.
And this is a story that actually comes from the Hollywood Reporter. Now, the main story in the Hollywood Reporter piece wasn't this, but still the quote is an important one. The quote, then, is Feige now telling his opinion on Chapek. And the quote is, Marvel boss Kevin Feige won't address the Johansson litigation, but while he is not known for discussing Disney internal politics, he says the still new CEO is being underestimated. Then comes the quote from Feige. I think he is a creative guy, a nice guy, a real guy, Feige says, adding that Chapek offers just enough of an opinion to give good feedback on early cuts of movies and shows. End quote. So, Kamran, what you predicted was that Chapek was going to win the war, and Kevin Feige would be left with two options. Either he would have to continue fighting, or he would have to bend the knee and kiss the ring. What's going on here?
I think that this is a very carefully crafted statement coming out of a major loss. And the major loss was Scarlett Johansson essentially capitulating to Bob Chapek and surrendering and settling her lawsuit before it even got to the stage of of whether it was going to move forward as an arbitration or was going to go to court discovery. She basically surrendered exactly at the point that I predicted on Midnight's Edge, which is the moment that the Shang-Chi numbers came in and revealed that Shang-Chi was going to do worse than Black Widow without the extra streaming boost that Black Widow got. And so she had no argument or claim that she had lost money when Shang-Chi followed the strategy she wanted and made less money. So as we predicted, when that happened, she's immediately folded and said, I'm out. And I have said for some time that I believe Mr. Feige is the one behind that lawsuit because it's not something in her interest to have done. It's something that she was cajoled to probably by Mr. Feige and her agent, Brian Lord at CAA, right? Who said, hey, trust us, this is going to be good for you. And the moment she figured out it wasn't good for her, she was out. And so shortly, literally just a few days after that, we see this kind of comment. And so immediately I started getting messages on my Patreon, people saying, has he capitulated? See, it's over. You were right. And I'm like, well, I'm partially right because this is the kind of thing. It's actually him acknowledging. It's Feige acknowledging that he lost this battle, right? And he's had to retreat. However, the words there are very mealy-mouthed. They're very they're still beneath the words. There is a tone of deep arrogance that you can hear, right? Because look at what he's saying. He's got this Chapek guy. He's got some creative ideas. He chimes in a little bit, gives a little bit of feedback, right? Listen to those words. Those are not the words of someone that has accepted defeat. They're the words of someone that is sort of licking his wounds, and his ego has been damaged that this isn't going the way that he wanted to, and he's not getting really any support. Scarlett jumped ship, and and others aren't really backing him. The Russo brothers aren't backing him. It's damaging to his ego that this is how it's playing out. But I don't think this is over yet. So I don't think people should get overexcited that Mr. Feige has kissed the ring. If he's kissing the ring, it's because I think he's still got a dagger in his back. He's waiting. This gentleman has a decade's worth of ego built up that I created Marvel from nothing. And this guy, this pencil pusher, this numbers cruncher comes in, and you can feel his contempt for him in the statement. He's essentially calling him a numbers cruncher with some creative ideas every now and then. This guy would come in and tell me what to do. So I think that we still have a little bit of drama ahead of us. I don't think this is over. So I think you should all get ready. But I think that if Mr. Feige is smart, he's going to look at what he's got and just drop the knife behind his back, because I don't think he's got anything to back that up. But he may think he does. And maybe he's having conversations with his friend Kathleen Kennedy, who I still think is self-destructing over it with Indiana Jones. So maybe they may still be in a diluted bubble together, those two. So keep an eye out. If he tries anything else, I think he's finished. But he may still try something else.
I think he's retreating. I think that he kind of realized that he fucked up.
Well, he does realize
everybody that was involved with this ScarJo thing realizes they fucked up. I think that you and Script and Andre are right that they underestimated this guy. And like when I said, like, he may not know how to play the game, but he will figure it out soon enough. And I think he figured it out pretty goddamn quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andre.
I would like to highlight a comment from Dwayne Olson, who says, this doesn't quite strike me as Feige kissing the ring. Seems like a strategic retreat. And yes, I'm in 100% agreement. This is what I said about this before we went live to Kamran. To me, this looks like Kevin Feige kissing the ring, but he has one hand behind his back. And in that back, there is a dagger waiting for the next opportunity to strike, looking to create it. I don't think this is over. I do not think that Kevin Feige is going to defeat this easily. I mean, he has to really feel it more. I mean, there has to be a whole black PR campaign against him. Then he'll kiss the ring. It's then or out. I don't think he has kissed any ring genuinely just yet.
I'll posit a Cameron prediction here.
Okay.
I think he's playing the long game with the Eternals, and he knows the Eternals is going to flop. And then he is going to try and play that card as well. See, now this is why we should have, the thing on streaming and like we did with Shang-Chi. But
you're saying that Chapek believes the Eternals.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, Chapek. I should be clear. Yes. Because it didn't quite work out with Shang-Chi, but it worked out well enough that, it didn't do as well as they're trying to fucking promote it as. And I think this weekend and a couple other weekends coming up are going to show that, right? Like Venom doing as well as it did. And I think Halloween is going to surprise a lot of people this weekend, that it's going to make Shang-Chi look like, is it really that, like, people are going to stop and look at, was it really that big of a hit? Yeah, sure, it made $400 million, but you know, is it really a success considering you get to boast that it's the most successful of the least successful Marvel films? I mean, that's really what it is. It's
so best of the worst, best of the also rounds.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, look, I think we're all in the generally same area. I think that that Tom, you are right that he is making a retreat at this moment. I think that's clear. But I also agree with Andre and with our chat that it is a strategic retreat. I just don't think it's quite over yet. I just don't think that someone with this kind of ego is going to just walk away. And I think we'll see around the Eternals time some other angle. And then I think he's gonna misplay it, because I just don't think that Mr. Feige understands what he's dealing with. I don't think he's met someone like Chapek before, because he's been hanging around this club that's kissed his ass for 10 years. So he's not met somebody like this before, and he doesn't know his psychology. And so I just don't think someone like that is going to be able to outsmart Chapek. And I think if he tries something else, which I think his ego is going to compel him to try, I think he's finished.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's going to try. I don't think this is quite over yet. The reason is that someone, like, I know people like Feige from business. He's like a fairly normal guy, but he's been tremendously successful, and he's really been built up by that. So he has like this feeling that he's going to be invincible. And he's not going to back down until he sees that, whoa, this can all be taken away in a heartbeat, and I'm on my last leg right now. That's when he's going to back down permanently. That's when he's going to kiss the ring, not to try anything more again. That hasn't happened yet. I think that he's going because he hasn't had like any huge blowback against him.
No, you're right.
I think that when he kisses the ring, and he means it, is after he has been dragged through the mud in the media, after there has been a campaign calling for saying that he's lost his way, it's like time to bring in someone else or something like that. And that's all been orchestrated because of him dropping the ball or something. So he knows, the whole industry knows, this guy has fucked up. Well, he's now on his last leg. They've thrown like dirt on his armor, so he's no longer the perfect producer. That is when he is going to be kissing the ring for real, when the town knows that Kevin Feige is not infallible.
And we know that's going to take a little bit, right? Let's be real. Like, it's not going to be the Eternals, but I think if you take the combination of Shang-Chi, the Eternals, Black Widow, the series on Netflix on Disney Plus, and then turn around, if this lawsuit doesn't work out for them, you're going to have Kevin in a very precarious position, right? Like, he will no longer have direct access to the biggest names in the comic. He's going to have to make deals with all the family members of the creators. You're going to have a situation where people are just not as invested as they were outside of Spider-Man right now. I'm not seeing a lot of investment in the Marvel universe.
So
right?
There's something that I was sent by Patreon. Let me see if I can find it on my Patreon as I'm talking to you. Someone sent me a message about an executive that's been promoted. I didn't know much about this. Someone named Alonso, I believe. It's a woman. It's a Latina woman that was working in Marvel that they claimed was the real sort of push of woke internal.
Oh yeah, like the newly promoted Alonso. Yeah, what like Elizabeth Alonso or
so I'll find her name.
Whatever. Yeah, Alonso something. She's the one that doesn't like the title the X-Men because it's problematic. She'd rather have it be the mutants.
Yeah,
Victoria Alonso.
Alonso. So the person sent me this message saying they're hearing it on a Reddit board or wherever that people, claiming to be involved with Marvel are celebrating that promotion because it's essentially promoting her out of the way. That's the claim that I was saying for some time that he was getting bad advice. Remember, I said that on the show, right? That Feige isn't necessarily a woke character. His early movies show that he's not, right? And the whole arc of of Marvel until recently showed that he wasn't. And yet suddenly we're seeing this woke thing, insidiously entering into this new period. And I was saying he's getting bad advice. And I said it's from the club. It could be someone who's simply of the philosophy of the club, who's not, a famous person themselves. But if this Ms. Alonso is the one that's been telling him, this is the future, man. This is the future, is where the audience is, right? She's pushing her ideology. So she's the one perhaps that was giving him bad advice. Perhaps she's being backed by people in the club that wanted to give him that advice. And so it felt like it was a situation of someone giving him bad advice. But if she has been promoted out of the way so that she's no longer able to control or affect those stories, but has a nice new title and more money, so they paid her off, then we might, after the Eternals, which I think will not do well, or not as well as Mr. Feige is hoping, will be the wake-up call, that recognition that he's basically allowed himself to be suckered into he went from the winning position to being cornered, and he allowed that to him. He did that to himself.
Well, they're not going to be able
to do this to themselves the way he's done this to himself.
And they're not going to be able to fortify the Eternals probably as well as they've been able to these other films in the media. Right, that's where I see this coming, because Eternals is going up against some stiff fucking competition. Because let's be real, let's say in a world that Shang-Chi didn't basically get its own month to play by itself, right? Because it had zero competition. And what happens? The first movie that comes out after it, Venom, and Venom basically just crushes it in its first week, and not like entirely, but like just by looking in comparison of the opening, it's like, yeah, that didn't do shit. And then now we've got Halloween coming up. We had Bond do fairly well stateside, but not great. But it's doing gangbusters overseas. We've got Dune coming up. We got Halloween this weekend. We've got Ghostbusters in a month. I mean, and when does Eternals come out? It comes out November
sometime.
2 weeks away.
Yeah, we have to finish up that video pretty soon here.
Yeah, it comes out right around the same time as Ghostbusters. So like, it's gonna be
go Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I have a feeling Eternals is going to be the worst of the worst Marvel movies as far as box office wise, because it's got nothing going for it. Absolutely fucking nothing. There's zero buzz around it. At least with Shang-Chi, there was a little bit of the, it looks like a fun kung fu movie, right? Okay, it comes out November 5th. So yeah, like.
Yeah, exactly. So remember the 5th of November. That's when.
That's what, like not even 2 weeks after Dune. Right. Okay. So that's exactly 2 weeks after Dune. And I think it's 2 weeks just before Ghostbusters. So it's right smack dab in the between those two. It's
yeah. I mean, it's not in a good position. And aside from Ms. Jolie, I don't think there's anything there. I don't feel like I saw the trailer. I was like, I don't care about this. I don't care about this. Right. And so I don't. There's nothing that pulled me in. The same way that I saw the Shang-Chi trailer, and I said, I don't care about this. Why would I watch this?
Yeah, and I read the leaked synopsis of the entire story. It's boring as hell. You want like the end spoilers?
Well, is that appropriate? Should we give?
No, probably not. To screw it.
Yeah, let's get our audience.
Well, let's look at it this way though. This is what the trailer is. You have a bunch of superhero people who couldn't get involved when half the world was, snapped out of existence. But now
half the universe.
But they're on the planet that they're on anyway. And then now they're just getting involved just because it's like, fuck it, whatever. Who cares? Who fucking cares? And that's where I'm at with a lot of this Marvel shit. Like I've gotten to, and I know a lot of people have, but it took me a little longer to get here. Even though I still am holding out hope for Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, to me, like we're hitting the end of the road now. Like this is it. Because even Tom Holland's making me wonder, because he's out there saying shit now, like this is the end of they were seeing this is the end of a story, and he hasn't signed on for any more yet. Like I think he's
well, hopefully he doesn't die. Hopefully he doesn't die like Bond.
No, I don't think that's the case. But what I think he's doing is I think he's trying to get a better deal because he's in the middle of negotiating.
Well, and that's what Daniel Craig did, by the way. He kept saying, I'm not coming back.
Exactly. Well, he didn't say that he's not coming back. He just said we made this movie and seen it as the end of a story. Was kind of the quote. I'm paraphrasing, but it was pretty clear that, like, I got the my contract's up. Give me money is what I was hearing out of it.
Yeah, and that's the natural. I mean, it's all about money, right? At the end of the day, it's all about that, right? And so Mr. Holland, this is his big break. Unless he's delusional, like a David Caruso type, I don't think he's gonna think that he wants to end Spider-Man that quickly.
No, he loves this character. He's the one who got Disney and Sony to play nice I have a feeling he's going to be playing the character for a while. We're getting a lot of ones in the chat. Is that for people that they want to spoil the ending? I think, Andre.
Yeah. Let's not.
Okay.
I'm gonna do 2. Let's not because I want to be able to. First of all, I want Midnight's Edge to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to randomly.
But you can give a spoiler that you didn't like the ending. Is that fair? You didn't like the ending from what you've read.
I didn't like anything.
That solves that problem.
The ending just fell right in line with everything else.
So it's consistently shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
based on assuming the leaked story synopsis is accurate, it was all crap all the time.
Okay,
boring as hell.
Well, do you have can you tell people where they can find this synopsis so that maybe they can do it for themselves? So at least
you can find it on Reddit if you look for let's see here. I'm gonna try myself to see if I can find it. It was sent to me, but I think it's on Reddit. Eternals leak.
So just share in the chat that way people can look it up themselves.
Yeah. Give me 1 second and see if I can find it.
No worries.
Yeah, and it's test screening. It's from test screening, so it should be pretty bang on the money.
Well, I mean, again, but then Bond was changed from test screening. Bond wasn't a good movie, but my understanding it could have been an even worse movie after the test screening adjusted that. So
yeah, so here's the link for those that want it, and then you can see decide for yourself. And of course, they can do reshoots and they can change it and everything like that. And maybe it's going to be amazing, all those hedges. But in reading it, I didn't like it. And Keck44 says, quote from Andre, "I don't like anything." Andre 2020. That's not true. That's not true. I like Dune, apart from the score.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, let's keep moving. We got what, about another 15-20 minutes before we got to start wrapping? Is that how where are we with our
we've got another, actually we got a little longer, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we got, well, no, actually you're probably right on that.
And look, we have almost 1,600 people in the chat and only 577 likes. So please
smash that like, everyone.
This is
Well, okay, so
let's
get your final thoughts then on this Chapek business, Cameron, and then we'll move into some super chats, and then we'll talk a little Halloween, and we'll get out of here. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Sounds like a plan.
Well, look, this is, I think, like I said, we still have a little bit of Shakespearean drama to go here. If Mr. Feige continues down this path that he thinks he's got another angle, I think it's going to be a really disastrous outcome that's going to damage his permanent standing in this town, because everyone else has bent the knee here. Everyone else has figured out that Chapek is in charge. We're seeing the articles. I mean, look, I wrote about this on Patreon. Alan Horn officially announced his retirement just a few days ago. That is a major victory for Chapek, and I knew that was coming. You know when I knew that was coming? When the lawsuit, the Kevin Feige, inspired lawsuit by Scarlett Johansson, when that was settled, who made the announcement that it was settled? It was Alan Bergman, the guy that was in his shadow, that was in Horn's shadow for the last several years. You never heard him, right? He had a title, co-chair this. You never heard this guy. And suddenly he's the one making the announcement. So, and he, then I understood, okay, this is Chapek's proxy, but where the hell's Horn, who is supposed to be, who's supposed to be Iger's proxy? And when I said, we're not hearing anything from Horn, it's because he's done. It's because he's the last element of the Iger regime still there. And then voila, 2 weeks later, Horn announces his retirement. So I don't think Disney there's probably some mid-level executives left over from the Iger days, but at this point, I think they've seen the bloodbath. And I think at this point, they're keeping their heads down hunkered. So who does Feige have as an ally? Horn would have been his ally. Now Horn's going to be out at the end of the year. So this guy's got nothing. He doesn't have the filmmakers on his side. He doesn't have the actors on his side. He's got nothing. So if he acts in any way, if Kathleen Kennedy or Ms. Alonso or whoever is advising Kevin Feige to keep up this battle wants to see him go down, they're like that fair weather friend that wants to see you fall. So this is going to get a little tragic in a Shakespearean way very quickly if he makes any further actions.
Yeah, indeed. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It will be very interesting. And with that, Tom, before we move into Super Chats, we do have a backlog, everyone. We're going to get to all the Super Chats by the end here because we never leave any Super Chats behind. But until then, Tom, have you seen any cool movies lately?
Oh, I did watch Halloween Kills last night, like I'm sure a lot of people did. So I enjoyed it, actually better than I thought it was going to. We did a review of it last night over on Mead. Yeah,
that should still be there, shouldn't it? That was
absolutely.
quite an epic roundtable.
Well, we had quite a bit of differentiation between the opinions, so it was like one of the more diverse panels we had in a sense of how people felt about the film. I just I didn't expect to like it as much as I did because I did not like the last one. But like I said earlier on, like I see these movies a little different now after seeing this one. Like it kind of clicked with me a little more. It's like and I even read a quote from the director where he's talking about it as a series. So like I said, it's like a glorified streaming series, right? Like, and I said something else to Andre last night that still rings true. The thing about the Halloween franchise, unlike Nightmare on Elm Street and a couple of the other ones is that they have gone in so many different fucking directions that you can choose your own adventure, which is the beauty of it. So like, even though I love certain other films in the franchise, this isn't really, as much as it's undoing other movies, it isn't, right? Like they're still there. There's no real technical going back to those at this point, kind of like with Star Wars.
Well, surely they're not. I mean, like the 2018, sorry, that's like the new part 2, erasing everything that came before.
It
like
is.
Overwriting on top of it.
Yeah, and this movie makes doubly sure that you know that.
Exactly. So, according to the continuity started in 2018, there are now 3 Halloween movies. The original, the 2018 movie simply titled Halloween. So you have like part 1 and part 2, both titled Halloween, and now part 3 in Halloween Kills, right?
Yep. And then Halloween Ends is coming next. And that's one that's got me worried because the director's talking about because this one's going to have a time jump and he's talking about modern politics and the pandemic and everything playing into this one. So I'm just like,
that could be interesting, provided you have sane people doing it. I mean, the people who are doing part 3, who have now said that, oh, it's going to be like pandemic and all the crazy politics. Are they sane people or are they activists? Because that's going to depend entirely. When they talk about all the crazy politics, are they talking about everything that we were warned that the Orange Man was going to do, or everything that we were warned that the Orange Man was going to do that the current guy actually is doing? Like, which aspect do we have there?
We have one problem. The problem being Jamie Lee Curtis. And she went out for this movie, and luckily it didn't get much traction. But she was basically pulling a woke media press on this movie, saying that this is the Me Too movie of horror movies.
Oh, you fucked up.
I'm not shitting you. And I'm...
Okay, Tom, you have seen it. Is this the Me Too of horror movies?
Like, you could put some...
So the marketing lies.
Well, you could put some, like, grand... Like, if you really want... Like, Steven was talking about it last night, deleted scene in the chat. And he brought it up too, I think it was, and if it wasn't him, I apologize. But like the explanation of it all, I'm like, I guess I can kind of see it, but it's stretching like a motherfucker. Like it really is. I've seen some people talk about BLM stuff involved in it. Look, I'll say this: you guys got to remember, this movie was shot 2 fucking years ago. It was shot way before all that stuff. There's not really anything woke in this movie. If anything, there's more woke shit in the first movie. This one was just pure fun. It was just nonstop balls to the wall, Michael Myers, and I don't want to give too much away.
The critique I have is this, and you could add to the. I'm going to go see the movie this weekend. That's my intention. Why I didn't like the last movie, aside from the fact that I really liked H2O, which I thought was a really good continuation of the series. But okay, let's go with they threw out all of Halloween and just this is the reset. Okay, but the Michael Myers that I saw in the last movie it was a Myers that wasn't the Myers I saw in the original Halloween, which was a really scary figure, a phantom that is always just slowly coming towards you, that seems to have very focused kills as to who he's going after. Here, this dude just walking around killing people. He goes into a house, kills somebody at the window, walks out, kills somebody in the street. I mean, it's just this random carnage, and he's just walking around in public doing it. That's never felt like Michael Myers to me. And is that the kind of carnage we're seeing here as well? Is just going and randomly killing people left and right?
Yes.
Okay, that's not
motherfucker kills more people in the first 5 minutes of this movie than he kills 11 fucking people in like no time flat. Like it's just boom. Like, because that was the whole scene that everybody's making a big stink about, because he goes after the firefighters. He takes them all out, and like he is just nonstop through this movie. And I don't want to give too much away. There's some fucking amazing CGI in this movie. I could not fucking believe how good it was. It's kind of in the trailer.
Killing or what? I mean,
no, I'll tell you, because it's kind of in the trailer. But they do flash back to the original night. We get to see
when he's a little kid,
more,
or back to the first movie.
More of the first movie. Like it picks up, and we see because they teased a little bit about this in the last movie.
That he was captured and whatever.
Yes, and so we see that moment, and the CGI they have for Dr. Loomis. My fucking God, it's amazing.
Dr. Loomis. Okay, that's interesting.
The best deep faking I have ever fucking seen in a movie so far. It is.
Okay.
And whoever they got doing the voice, it was amazing, because there was some people even in the chat last night saying they thought that it was outtakes, and it's like, no, there was no outtakes of this. This is completely new. This was never anything that was written before. The voice they got, whoever they have for a stand-in has the perfect body. The face is like spot on. It doesn't even look like a deep fake. It is amazing. Was it prosthetics, says Nudporial? Whoever they got looks exactly like him. It is uncanny.
Well, I mean, then, a lot of people believe that some of our political leaders are wearing prosthetic masks, right? So we're in 2020s. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows what the world is nowadays? So, yeah. Okay, well, that's intriguing.
Exactly, Mecha J. Yeah, I don't know if it was now that I see that from Nerdporial.
Just to follow up on what Kamran said about like masks and stuff like that. Remember when we had our good friend Gary J. Tunnicliffe on? He was asked, like, does he know if some of his colleagues have been like contacted by CIA or something like that to make people look like someone else? And Gary, he kind of like, by Gary I mean Tunnicliffe, kind of like froze up and said, I don't want to talk too much about it. It's been known to happen. So yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're living in a world where reality, I will say this one story, and then we'll go right back to this, which is technology in Hollywood is a lot more advanced than people know. I remember getting a major Hollywood studio head. This was 20 years ago when I was in film school in the early 2000s, right? UCLA, a studio head, a powerful studio head, came in, and he told a story about how just a year before he had been invited. It might have been Disney, but one of the major studios. He had been invited to come in to meet with someone at this meeting, and he came into the office. And he was talking to this person, this executive that he is this prominent person he'd been come meet, and then the guy vanished right in front of him. He's like, "What?" And then people came out and said that was a hologram. We were using this wanted to show you this, sir, of how advanced the technology was. That he thought he had no idea he was talking to a hologram the entire time. And he said that's a technology, that's a super secret technology that we have. And he told me that 20 years ago. He said I had no idea I was talking to a human being that was present in the room with me. That's 20 years ago. So all I can say is technology is a lot more advanced than that we know about. So
yeah, there's a
lot
you can do with smoke emitters.
And if they use CGI in any of the kills, I didn't notice. Like all the kills looked like they were pretty much practical. And there's some pretty good ones in this one.
All right, so I mean, look, I want to like this. I'm a big.
It retroactively made the last movie better for me, because I
did
disliked the last one quite a bit. But then as I got into this one, like, okay, I understand it a little more, and I do see it as an Empire Strikes Back. And what I mean by that is this is not a movie on its own. Like, I can totally respect people who are like, as a movie, it doesn't work, because as you have to have the movie before it, and you'll have to have the movie, actually the two movies before it, and you'll have to have the movie after it, right? So like, it does not stand alone on its own. It's like Two Towers, though, right? This was a pre-planned trilogy, kids. That's the thing. At least they planned it. And last night I started seeing the connective tissue, because I'd watched the last movie the first time since it came out, just before I watched Halloween Kills. And I was like, okay, so I was pre-prepared, because there's a lot of connective tissue I would not have noticed had I not watched 2018 before this one. Because you could tell they clearly planned this all out. they have a goal and they knew what they were doing here. So I got to give them props on that, because I gave them so much shit initially for that last movie, and I take a lot of it back.
All right. Well, I'm seeing in the chat a lot of people are saying they really liked it, so that's good to know. I mean, as someone who was heartbroken that Halloween didn't live up to my expectations, the last one, I'm excited that Tom is so excited, and so many people in the chat are excited by it.
Well, it was great because we were talking about it last night, and even those who disliked it still engaged in things that they liked about it, and even the stuff that I didn't like. There was a lot of give and take with the conversation. It was great not to sit there and go, well, I hated this woke character, and I hated that woke character, and this woke moment, and that woke moment, and it didn't have any of that shit in it, right? Like, there's even a moment where they could have, and I would have probably even forgave them because it was Laurie Strode, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's a moment where you're like, oh shit, they're gonna have her turn into fucking Superwoman, and they don't. I don't want to give it away, but like, she goes to this point, and then they're like, oh no, they're making this realistic.
That's what is good about Halloween, is that it's supposed to feel real, in that this could happen to your neighborhood, and if you had a Superwoman facing this invincible monster, then it takes away that reality.
Yeah, and see, that was my issue that's still one of my issues with the 2018 one, is there's still some kills by Michael that are just a bit too far. This one, they dialed it back a little bit. I mean, I don't know if they listened to us. They didn't really have the time, because they started shooting Halloween Kills right at the same time the first one came out. But clearly they knew what they were doing ahead of time, so I should have just let them do it. And this is a clear example of waiting to see how it ends, because this third movie could fuck this whole thing up for me too on the other end of it.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's good.
I was going to go see it tomorrow. Maybe I'll just go see it tonight then.
Well, they're doing. I checked the closest theater to me in the biggest town, because it'd be the west side of that city. It was almost completely sold out for the 7:00 show this morning.
Okay.
So I haven't looked at it since.
Well, but you're also not in Los Angeles where people are afraid to go out because they might.
Well, let me just say though, this is the capital of where I'm at, and it's almost full, and it's the biggest city in an hour vicinity. So, like, yeah, I was kind of surprised to see how many seats were already sold. Like, I showed Andre, I'm like, look, the only thing that's left is shit seats, like literally, like seats right up front and on the sides, and it's just a few. So I'm curious to see how this one plays compared to some of the other movies. And that's the other thing Planet Musk vlog brought up. And I think they were trying to keep this shit under wraps, but it got out last night. It is coming to HBO Max on October 22nd. Okay. So it will be
HBO Max or whatever. So
yeah, it's on Peacock right now, and then it comes to HBO Max on October 22nd. But it's also in theaters. So
yeah, I mean, support your theaters as much as you can. Even in the ridiculous environment that I'm in, I went to see Bond in a theater, and it was weird because I walk in there, and not only they're doing, because again, Los Angeles County is the only place in this area where you gotta wear the face covering, right? If I go to Orange County or I go to Ventura, which is the county just north of me, it's normal, right? LA has to be North Korea, and you go there. Not only did you have to do this, you had a cop standing there by the ticket checker. It's like, look, what do you think we're gonna do, man? Just why do we have to have a cop here with a gun by the ticket checker? What do you think is going to happen here? I mean, so LA is crazy.
Well, maybe he's there to make sure that no one says "Go Brandon."
Maybe he's there to make sure nobody says, "Hi, can you see my smile?" I mean, it's stupid city, whatever.
Yeah, but yeah. So, Tom, anything else to say about Halloween, or shall we get caught up on these Superchats?
It's a great film. Check it out this weekend if you're a horror fan. I get it. It's not Shakespeare. It's not, a movie that's going to be for everybody.
It's not supposed to be Shakespeare. It's Michael Myers, right? But it's I'm very happy to hear that you had, since you also didn't like this last movie or was disappointed by the last movie, that you have this reaction gives me hope. Because, it's like this. I wasn't a huge fan of episode 1 of Star Wars. I've come to really appreciate it in the subsequent years after watching fake Disney Star Wars, but I wasn't a big fan of it. I was disappointed. I was like, what the fuck, man? What is this? And then episode 2 blew me away. Not everyone shares that opinion, but episode 2 and 3 I loved. So, I hope that's the trajectory of this.
Yeah, there's a ton of Easter eggs for Halloween fans. It is a love letter. I kind of compared it to Cobra Kai last night.
Okay, so that's nice because I didn't feel Easter eggs in the last movie. I felt like
there's a few, but there's a ton more in this one.
The last movie, there was the last movie they had sort of the anti-Loomis. You have the psychiatrist you think is gonna be the Loomis guy, and ends
that's the guy I didn't like, but now he makes more sense in this movie to a point. Like it's still not really, but like it was just something. I mean, the part I griped about it in the last movie, they make more sense in this movie. So I like, without give it away. Holy shit, Six has watched it 4 times since midnight.
And man, you might want to get some
wow, that's like a sign of quality. If you've managed to see it 4 times since midnight, that's impressive.
All right, well,
and you're still here. That's kudos.
So yeah, we're running out of time though. So yeah, I recommend the film. Most of the panel recommended it last night. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you don't, too bad. I'm sorry about that, but it's a horror film. It's not going to be for everybody.
I'm happy to hear people seem to like it, and I'm now
before we
check it out.
Before we get into our super chats, though, we got a couple member chats I'm going to read off here. Did we get this one from Etienne Falador? I don't know if we did.
At the end of Falador. What was it that he saw?
Yeah, we did get that one.
Yes, we did get that one. But we did not get the one from Gran Wasu 42. Yes. That's where we are.
Go ahead and read that one if you want to, Andre.
Yeah. Gran Wasu 42 sent us a member chat that we luckily were able to catch because there's no repository on the backside. Hail Midnight Sedge. Kamran the Seer is here and Kevin bends the knee. Let's go. My beer is ready. Skål. Well, yeah, I hope you emptied that beer because obviously this was sent before we went into it, but I hope that you were pleased with what we got. And then we have Fear is the Mind Killer, who says, I've been following you since Trankgate. Still love the content, and I love Meat Radio. Greetings from Holland.
Oh, well, you guys have a radio channel? What's that all about?
I got a little radio channel that I pop in every once in a while for a couple hours at a time, and I play nothing but soundtrack music basically.
Oh, okay.
The only exceptions is like if an actor sings a song or a comedian, I'll do some of those, like, something like that. But generally it has to have some kind of movie or television connection to it. Once in a while I'll play video game soundtracks too, but I'll make the exception. But outside of that, it generally at least has to be something from a soundtrack. But yeah, everything from the score to pop music and beyond. Yeah.
Oh, you think you're going to play the score for Dune?
Oh, not the new one. Newer Zimmer doesn't get a lot of love on Midnight's Edge After Dark Radio because it's a lot of for fucking 10, 12 minutes. Like, he doesn't have normal tracks.
It's like theremin music kind of stuff.
It is weird stuff usually, but his classic scores are great, so you'll hear a lot of those. And the funny thing is the first song I ever played on there, Andre, I don't know if he remembers this or knows this or not. I told him, but it was Spaceballs.
Oh yeah, I remember now. I love that song. Yeah, that Spaceball theme is freaking awesome.
Have you ever played? And because I know Andre loves this movie as much as I do. Have you ever played the score for First Man?
I haven't got it yet. He told me to get it though, so that's when I'm on the lookout.
It won the Oscar.
And you have to first, before you hear it, you have to see the movie with that music. It is one of the best movie scores of all time.
Absolutely.
I just have to watch it. I haven't.
And he uses the theremin. He uses but it works. It really works.
That's why I should have scored Dune.
Other scores too.
Whoever scored First Man should have scored Dune.
But again, Hans Zimmer is sort of the guy that everyone, he's the name, and you got to get the name right.
He's a club. He's a club, and he's good. I will say that the score did not detract from the movie, but I felt that it did not elevate it to the point where it should have.
Well, whatever. One day, Andre, we have to do a special conversation review of First Man, which is
I would love to. I would love to. You know what I want to do? Not just First Man. I have the whole thing planned out. Okay. We're just going to do it. Just like be a multiple part, several special. We're not going to begin with First Man. We're going to end with First Man. No, we're going to begin with a Russian movie. We're going to begin with the movie Gagarin, which is about the first man ever to go into space.
Wow, okay.
And then we're going to follow up with another Russian movie called Spacewalker, about Leonov, the first man to actually do a spacewalk, and he almost died in the process. Because remember, this was Russia. The Russian space program wasn't so carefully carefully planned and everything like that. You know what really happened with Leonov? The first man to do a spacewalk is an amazing story. Because what happened was at first he almost died
because he beat the Americans.
Yeah. And then we finished those 3 with First Man when the Americans struck back.
I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm the first man in space, period.
Right, history never happened before. I actually want to address, with respect to someone in the chat that I don't agree with, who just said, gentleman said that the First Man is subtly or hiddenly anti-American. It's not true at all. It is not.
Yeah, I know. I agree. One of the worst mistakes that I have made in movies is that I was so offended by the lack of the American flag on the moon sequence that was advertised in advance.
But
and
as a Norwegian, you see the flag on the moon.
I know. But as a Norwegian, was so offended by that because it's an American achievement that I opted against seeing the movie in theaters. And when I later saw it at home, I was like, why the hell did I not see this in IMAX?
I saw that in IMAX and the theater 4 times. I saw it 4 times in the theater, 5th time in IMAX. And I want to address that with respect to, if someone disagrees having seen the movie, fine. But there's this rumor going around because some idiots on Twitter started saying, well, because also the director said that they had filmed the scene where they actually saw the flag going down and he cut it out. But the flag is shown on the moon and the American flag is flying throughout the film very prominently, and it is very much about an American achievement. And the final moments of the movie are interviews of that Neil Armstrong, having returned, is watching people all over the world talking about how much they love America for doing this, for doing the impossible. And so I would passionately disagree with anyone claiming it's an anti-American film. It is a very pro-American film and a very pro-human film. And it is up there with me with Lawrence of Arabia, Gone with the Wind, and The 10 Commandments is amongst the greatest movies of all time. And it is a movie that most people haven't seen.
Y'all are building this shit up pretty good.
For me to watch it 4 times in theater and 5th in IMAX, right? It moved me so deeply because I finally understood the cost of the achievement, and that movie, the genius of it is on 2 levels for me. And then we'll get back to the chat. The 2 levels. One is the incredible humanization of this iconic figure of Neil Armstrong, because we don't know who that man was. We don't know how much personal tragedy and pain guided his life and almost gave him a death wish. Like, you can see the pain that he was carrying with him makes him almost like they should have aborted that mission. It was going badly wrong. And he's like, no, I'm going to land this fucking thing. I don't care if I die. And you see why, right? And 2, they show the incredible danger of this entire enterprise on every level. The opening scene is terrifying when you see him in an early, space jet that he's trying to get above the atmosphere. It's gripping because you're like, he's gonna die. In the first minute, you're like, this guy's gonna die. And throughout the movie, you're like, this fucking guy's gonna die, because they show you how dangerous it is from the point of view. You see the launches from inside the capsule, and you see this thing should blow up at any second. This movie made you realize how fucking crazy that whole enterprise was and what a miracle it was they accomplished it, and that America accomplished it. So I had to say that because anyone who believes First Man is anti-American has not seen the movie. And if you see the movie, you're like, God bless America.
Exactly. And also that's why I don't want to see, I want to do a trilogy out of it with first the 2 Russian movies, followed then by the American, because then you also see the massive contrast in the space program. Yeah, the Russians, they got there first, and talking about getting corners cut and something like that. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Let people die. Who cares?
Exactly. I'm just going to put this out there that Gagarin, he's the first person that was sent to space and returned. We don't know for certain that he was the literally first person in space.
There is some evidence that the Soviets put other cosmonauts out there that never got back.
Exactly.
Woman cosmonaut. And there's actual radio transmission evidence of emergency calls from space that were said before Gagarin. And Soviets like, oh, well, fuck them. I mean, you're not coming back. Good luck to you.
and that's what also so awesome. I just have to say, I have to give 2 little spoilers for those movies. The first one, Gagarin, was the first man in space. You have this scene when he's about to be launched, and he tells the launch technician that I'm a little bit nervous. Am I going to be fine? And the launch technician tells him really, really calmly and dispassionately, look, son, you don't have to worry about anything. If even the slightest thing goes wrong, doesn't matter how slight, even the slightest thing goes wrong, you're dead. And there's nothing you can do about it. So don't worry about it, because it's beyond your control anyway. Just sit back and relax. That's like the Russian way of being pedagogical. And the second one, this is like the hilarious thing, because this is then Leonov, and this is the movie Spacewalker, because he's the first man that actually took a spacewalk going out of the vehicle. Yeah. So he went out, and then he got stuck because they hadn't planned on his spacesuit inflating so much he couldn't get back into the capsule again.
They didn't understand the atmospheric situation, you know.
No, and not only that, like for instance, when they launch and return to the atmosphere, like for instance in the States, you do it in the middle of the Pacific. You have like the Navy and everything is ready to pick you up and stuff like that. Whereas re-entry from the Russian perspective, we'll land somewhere here in the Ural Mountains. Yeah. So after all, dying in space almost, then he's stranded in the middle of the freaking Ural Mountains, and he has to fight off wolves and bears for 2 weeks before he's rescued.
So he survives this incredible thing. It's like, oh shit, now I might die by wolves and bears. Exactly,
because he's like in the middle of freaking nowhere. And it's the same thing with Gagarin. When he came back, he was like, am I in Russia or am I in China? It's just like, because he lands alone in the middle of nowhere, and then they have to find him.
Yeah, no, it's look, those people were incredible. You know, I have no love for the Soviet Union, but I have great love for Yuri Gagarin. I mean, he did the two men who did the impossible, right? Yuri Gagarin and Neil Armstrong, they did the impossible, and they pulled it off. And these are heroes of the human race, you know. And so I would love to do this marathon and do it on Midnight's Edge, because I haven't seen those other films. And
that's why I wanted to share them. So it's going to be you, it's going to be Script Doctor, and we'll see who else we can get to be part of it, because that's amazing.
Can we have a hot girl on there? Can we have a hot girl? Is there
we can invite Lorena. I mean, that should be right up her alley as well.
Who right up her alley? I'm sorry?
Lorena.
Lorena's a very hot girl. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Kaiju King Gabriel asks with a $2 super chat. Yes. Thank you so much. Where does Apollo 13 follow into this? Houston.
Yeah, that comes right afterwards.
First Man is Apollo 11, the first moon landing, and the events leading to it. Actually, one of the biggest moments is the Gemini 8, which, I mean, a lot of history people don't know. Gemini 8 was a disaster, was going to be the Apollo 13 of its time, because it was a mission that Neil Armstrong commanded into outer space. So they're trying to connect with a rocket they launched separately to learn how to connect two spaceships at once, and it went violently wrong, and he should have died. And the moment in First Man where Neil realizes he's lost control and he might be dying is terrifying, right? So Apollo 13 takes place after these events. It's a great movie in many ways.
Let's put it this way: that the rocket ship in First Man is Apollo 11.
Yes,
it's Apollo 13 that went to hell. So that's afterwards. Yeah. That's like 2 years later.
Yeah. But you see in First Man that Apollo 11 should have gone the same way. I mean, literally, that the moon landing sequence, the actual when they're about to touch, is so terrifying. Even though they made it, but it's so terrifying because you realize that this should have been aborted. They should not have continued this landing. And Armstrong did it anyway because he was like, fucking, I'm going to land this thing. I have no other purpose in life anymore after the tragedies we've seen him go through. Yeah. And he did it.
And the launch of the Saturn V, that scene, oh my God, that's the most...
Oh my God, it's so emotional.
Neil sends in a $5 super chat about the subject at hand. And here's my fear. This is what I was thinking too, is because I didn't really care for Interstellar as much and had the same kind of problem there, and the same problem with biopics like A Beautiful Mind. And that is what I was afraid of if this is the case. Is he says, I wish I had the same experience as you guys with First Man. It just felt sterile and lacking in charisma to me. Maybe by design, but it took me out of it. And specifically like A Beautiful Mind when it comes to biopics.
Yeah, but that is by design, because Neil Armstrong was the most uncharismatic person. And the movie, that it feels sterile, I agree with that, and I like it. That's just like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
The sterile is the surface of it. Very early on in the first opening act, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, you establish the personal tragedies of Neil Armstrong's family life that actually haunt him throughout the process of the film. He can't escape those tragedies. And as he's going through various crises in the Apollo program, the Gemini program, the personal tragedy of his family comes back to him. And that's the thing, is that he can't. And the pivotal moment for me, without revealing everything, is that moment when he's on the moon, that he can finally grieve for that tragedy. He hasn't been able to grieve the whole movie. We see it haunting him, and he's unable to deal with it. And then he can finally cry. He can finally cry on the moon and deal with it. And
it was powerful.
His own sons were consultants on the movie. So that scene, there's this incredible scene in the movie that I was like, it's not sterile at all. It's that moment where he has to tell his kids the night that he's going. He doesn't want to talk to his kids. He just wants good night. He doesn't want to deal with it. And his wife forces him to sit down and talk to his little boys and say, I might not come back alive from this. You may never see me again. And he's a guy he's the old stoic 1950s, 60s American John Wayne guy who doesn't know how to do it. And it's heartbreaking to watch him finally tell his children, I might not be coming back from this. You may never see me again. And how his children react to it is so powerful. I don't see it as sterile. I see it as someone suppressing his emotion until it explodes. To me, that's passion.
Yeah.
And then Paulus Plain says, please add HBO's From Earth to the Moon, Take My Money.
That was amazing. Yeah. From Earth to the Moon, that's a companion piece to Apollo 13. They were, because Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks were involved with both of them. So when they deal with the events of Apollo 13, they do it from the other side. Like you see it from the control room, but it's kind of implying that it's like the same story that's followed in the movie. They're kind of like canon to each other. So the series From Earth to the Moon and Apollo 13 are kind of companion pieces to each other. A highly recommended series. Also amazing series.
And then we had to move on here with some member chats. We had Fear is the Mind Killer. Did you get this one? No, we got this one. Mexican Iron Man then is next. Member for 7 months. Thank you so much. And he's also a producer. Please hit that like button, he says. Help Andre and Tom with the likes. Thank you. And thank you, Mexican Iron Man, for that. And with that, we had some classic super chats, Andre.
So let's get into the classic super chats. The next one is from Pixel Supreme, who says for 10 Swiss franc, hail Midnight's Edge and hail Kamran. When modern movies refuse to be quality entertainment, it's time to revisit some old movies. Currently plan to rewatch Olsenbanden. Good childhood memories. Oh, that's awesome. Olsenbanden, for those that do not know, or the Olsen Gang. Okay. It's a series of 14 Danish movies. And yes, all you Norwegians out there, you heard that right. 14 Danish action comedies about a gang of criminals and robbers. Very kind criminals and robbers, but criminals and robbers nonetheless, that are trying to do this amazing heist to make them super rich for 14 movies. And the series is originally Danish, but all of the movies were remade in Norway, so they're also called Olsenbanden. That makes me wonder, are you watching the original Danish or the Norwegian remake of Olsenbanden? And to top it off, the Swedes could be no worse. So they remade the Olsenbanden movies as well, only they called them Jönssonligan. But both the Swedish and the Norwegian versions are then remakes of the original Danish. We do a lot of that in the Nordic, remake each other stuff. Well, mostly between Norwegians.
You're also the center of freedom on the planet, so God bless you.
Yeah, ironically, right now, and the Swedes have called Norway before the last Soviet state. And
well, it's all irony.
And they weren't wrong. It's all consider irony. Where we are right now and what that says about everyone else.
Well, look, the world is a joke. I just was in Bulgaria a month and a half ago, right? Bulgaria that we thought of as deep Eastern Bloc Soviet communism, and it's 10 times freer than Los Angeles. I was like, I got to move to Bulgaria. I feel safe here in Sofia. What am I doing in LA? It's just the world is upside down.
Yeah, and I just have to say that, you know, where I have the city I have felt the absolute safest. I've traveled the world as well, and the city that I felt being out in the middle of the night, like nothing is happening here, like no one is going to come do anything. It's ironic. Moscow, Russia.
Really,
yeah. Of course, the moment that you leave Moscow, but this was also in conjunction with like some celebration in May, so like all of Putin's forces were out and stuff like that. That may have had an impact. but when I was there that weekend, I have never felt so safe in any city as that.
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's places that are often very deeply controlled that are safest. You know, in the world before.
This is true, and I will also say that the trains, they did run on time in the amazing Moscow metro. So yeah,
I've only briefly. I never left. I was in Moscow for 12 hours on a layover. I was going to Spain, and this weird. I took Aeroflot, which is I flew from LA to Moscow to Spain, but it was the cheapest flight I could get, and I took it, and it was 12-hour layover in Moscow, and I was like, should I get out? Maybe I don't know. I don't know if I have time to do any sightseeing, so I didn't leave. Right, but all I can say is there's a lot of lovely ladies working in that Moscow airport. You're like, why are all these supermodels working at McDonald's in the airport? It really blew me away.
And Peter Smigelski says, Earth to the moon and the right stuff. Yes, indeed. And you have something in common with Paulus Plain, who also says, please, and the right stuff. Take my money. So yeah, and let's include the right stuff in there too.
Well, because the right stuff is about essentially the predecessor to the space program, because the whole idea of even trying this is insane, right? And so they had to first try to get into the upper atmosphere, which was crazy. And that's why First Man is so powerful, because it opens up with Neil Armstrong breaking through the upper atmosphere and into space. And then like, oh shit, can I get back now? What if I can't get back, right? And so that process was the first in all the craziness, because you had to do what no one had ever even tried.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Rich's Star Wars comic book and video game, who became a YouTube member, which I believe has happened before. Okay. Welcome back as a member, Rich. And then Naked Fame wonders, why is Andre so angry at Danish people? I'm not angry at Danish people. I just don't understand what they're saying. They need to spit the potato out of their mouth. But yeah, no, but seriously, and the Danish, where Olsenbanden is concerned, they were the original. It just pisses me off that so many Norwegians don't know that.
Wait, so were the Danes like the first Vikings? Were the Danes like the first Vikings? Where did the Vikings?
No, the Vikings, they kind of like happened the same at the same time, but the Danes were the more organized, and the ones that did definitely the more conquest were the Danish Vikings. So yeah, they were the more epic of the Vikings, because they were the best organized, and they were the ones that really put Great Britain under their feet. Wow. The Norwegian Vikings, they were like the more of the explorers. Of course, they did their pillaging and raping too, by all means, but they were the ones that first discovered Iceland, and then Greenland, and then the Americas. So that was the Norwegians.
Okay.
And the Swedes, they were there.
They were just hanging out. You know, good music, lovely ladies.
Oh yeah, in terms of like pop culture and music and stuff, well, the Swedes completely rule. Whereas we Norwegians, we're the hillbillies of the Nordic. We're like the we're the Beverly Hillbillies, we're the poor cousin Jeb that just struck oil. That's Norwegians.
Well, you guys got to learn to have a little more fun. When I went to Oslo a few years ago, it was like 8 o'clock. It's like, every time to go to bed. I'm like, why is everything shut down? I was like, why is nothing happening in Oslo after like 9 o'clock? I don't know.
Oh, that depends on which day you were there.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Norwegians are quite dry and boring before we get drunk. Join us out when we're drunk. It's a completely different matter, I promise you.
I wasn't there during the winter, so maybe during the winter you drink more. I don't know.
Yeah, but generally we're not the most exciting of people. Let no one delude you into that notion. So yeah. But moving on with the classic super chats, because we still have a few more to go through here. Let's see. We got this one. And then we got this one, because you see we've gotten some of them, but not all of them. We got this one. We got this one from Nintendo Power. Woke Troll said for $5, Kamran doesn't watch STD. Smart move.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I mean, for me, Star Trek essentially ended with the Bacula thing, right? I mean, for me, that's the last Star Trek.
Yeah. And then Gran, we have to rush through the rest here because we're on the time limit. Gran was 242 says for €10, white men and women are out for canceling a black comedian. That tells me everything about them, indeed.
Right. Which he says in the special.
Trevor Sumner says for $4.99, Netflix is playing both sides between Cuties, Mo 2 Revelations, and now The Closer. Correct. They have adopted the Eric Bischoff business model. Controversy creates cash.
Correct. That is exactly what.
And Comrade Roof Korean the Based says for $5, hard to take entitled Hollywood seriously. They live a lifestyle that 99.99% of us don't. Equity or equality isn't going to put me in a mansion or rodeo drive. And that is true. Equity is made to make everyone outside of the club equally poor. That's
Correct.
It's going to take you further away from rodeo drive. That's equity.
That's the idea.
And then T-Neil89 said for $10, with regards to SJW Tantrum, I haven't experienced such sublime schadenfreude since that time I could remember how to complete this joke. I feel like we owe a debt of thanks to Dave Chappelle. And Mr. Tickle Trunk says for $5 Canadian, the Netflix video played was from Scribe Light, incredible channel I frequent. Please subscribe. He also fills SJW bingo cards watching TEDx talks. So yeah, check out Scribe Light. Edgy number 1 says for £2, so difficult to present a neutral position. Hypergiver 2 says for $2, politics is downstream of culture. Drive-by commenter says for $10, I got an idea on how to skirt the politics. The Drinker does it, and film critique channels like Filmento do it. They talk about constructive critique and how to make certain ideas work. Yeah, this is true, but you know what? We discuss studio politics and corporate politics. That is our main point of view here, and that is what decides what ends up on screen. And from that point of view, that's also where the politics are. So yeah, you can pretend like nothing is happening when discussing the movies itself. Much more difficult when discussing the corporate politics behind the movies.
Correct.
And EVA Unit 4A says for $5, Blanco Lirio did an excellent job covering the Oroville Dam accident in 2017-18, specifically because he kept politics out of it. Got my sub for it too. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Well, look, as we were doing that, and I think we're out of time, but as we were doing this, I just got an email from my agents about a potential project set in the Middle East, and they're like, well, there's 2 ways to do this. One is to focus on the human story. One is focus on the politics between these 2 countries. I said, I don't want to focus on politics between these 2 countries. I want to focus on the human story, right? And the people backing it might want to focus on the politics because of their agendas, but that's not what I want to as a storyteller. But we have to address the fact that there are people that want to make it about politics.
Yeah, exactly. And then getting back to where we were again. Aries says, I don't mean wokeness in movies, but rather the talk about Wuhan flu politics in certain countries that goes beyond it if it's okay to go into cinema. Yeah, that's kind of like part of it, because that has to do with the recovery of cinema and everything else. It's difficult. It's difficult for cinemas to recover when you have artificial restrictions that prevent people from going.
Yeah, and when you have people in the industry, what I try to talk about is the fact that people in the industry are publicly and even to each other saying things they don't believe in a desperate effort to be safe from the woke mob and not being identified as a heretic or someone who doesn't care about human life. Whereas in reality, they don't feel this way. I had dinner with a very prominent producer just a few days ago, and he said to me, I just want to go back to normal, but I can't say that publicly.
Yeah. And then we have, let's see, Platonic Guardian also says you can't not talk about politics when discussing movies because Hollywood weirdos are politicizing every popular property. And Take Your 610 says, it's the gaslighting that bothers me when they tell us this doesn't happen or can't happen when it comes to crimes from various groups. Yeah, that's just one example.
Yeah.
EVA Unit 4A says for $5, wokeism/SJWs rose as a counterbalance to GOP/conservative white supremacy. That is as political as I will get. Hashtag get woke, go broke. Hashtag midnight set. Oh, thank you. But there's a little bit more to it than that. But I'm not going to get into it.
We don't have to get time for it. And again, this channel isn't about politics. It's about studio politics. So we'll go on.
Yeah, but there's more to it.
Yes.
Dwayne Olson says for $5, this doesn't quite strike me as Feige kissing the ring. Seems like a strategic retreat. We got that one, but it's worth repeating. The Seaman says for $5, is Chapek basically the ultimate normie, where he'll reflect and enforce the general audience's views and not those of the activists? Well, that is the hope. That is the hope.
Let's not delude ourselves. He's not a normie. He's a incredibly wealthy and powerful man within Hollywood.
But he knows that he has to appeal to the normies.
Well, he has to appeal to the shareholders who have to make money from the normies. So it's a trickle down, right? And that's always been who he has been as an executive, is attempting to control economics. He's an economics focused guy, right? But yeah, I'm sure he ain't living like you and I are living, right? He's got a very nice, very different kind of lifestyle. But he helps our cause.
Yes, indeed. Albeit by accident, then moving in the same direction. Mexican Iron Man says for $20, I stand firmly against Feige and the woke agenda. I take issue about the numbers guys not being creative. My evidence? The new launch of Headless Snarf, aka Rabbit Chicken International. Hail brothers Andre, Tom, and Habib Kamran.
Hail and salam.
And the Seaman also says for $5, ultimate move Chapek could make is for him to get Brie Larson to Me Too Feige. Oh yeah, that would be something.
Well,
let's not even get into that.
All I'm going to say is this: is that, and I've said this, and it's if Mr. Feige tries something else, that card can be pulled, because all these guys have something like that in their closets, and I don't think Mr. Chapek has it, because they would have used it by now. So let's just say the danger is he starts pushing too much. I've always said that if he starts pushing too much against Chapek, you'll start seeing negative stuff in the press about his life and how he's managing Marvel and private things. And so that's the warning. Don't go up against the king again, because your reputation will be destroyed.
Exactly, and that's what I'm thinking too. That he's not going to go kiss the ring once and for all until he gets a sampling of that. That's
I think that's kind of coming. I think that's kind of coming.
Yeah. Melvin Belliard says for $10, good afternoon, Andre, Tom, and to Kamran Dumas. Did you gentlemen see the reports about the Eternals pre-sales? I don't believe it myself, but what do you make of it?
Look, the trades are always reporting pre-sales, and it's a story that seems to be made up all the time. Every time, whenever you start hearing about how great the pre-sales are and it's bigger than this, and that's always a disaster move. You saw that with the great what's that the failed Suicide Squad. What the hell was it? The
Suicide Squad.
No, not the Suicide. Birds of Prey.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah.
Caused me a lot of drama and almost got me kicked off of Twitter, which I would eventually get kicked off of Twitter. But all we were hearing was Birds of Prey pre-sales are unlike anything you've ever seen before, right? And it didn't pan out. And so that whenever you see the pre-sales conversation, it's because the studio is panicking, and they're putting that into the the trades as a means of creating the narrative and convincing people that there's more excitement for a project than there is.
Indeed.
We're seeing Tom's face. Is it a big revelation about to happen, Tom? I don't know.
No, just Gary expects me to be on camera over there. So
Okay.
Okay, so dude, I mean, how are you doing this? You're on camera with him and with us. How's this working?
no, I'm getting ready. So I was just
Yeah. Well, we'll finish up momentarily here.
You know, we can.
They're already live. No, I wait till we're done. That's fine.
Yeah, no, Tom, you can just go and I'll finish up here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell Gary to bring me on. I was on like a year and a half ago, so tell me to bring me back on.
Yeah. And then let's see where we were here. Chaosonic 1 said for $5. I disagree, Kamran.
Okay.
As Kevin did deal with someone similar to Chapek, Ike Perlmutter. Only problem was he went to Iger to get rid of him. Perlmutter and Chapek are nothing like each other. That's completely different ballpark. Cannot be compared at all. Because Perlmutter.
It was part of the club, and it was an internal battle inside the club.
Yeah.
Chapek is not part of the club. There's something else happening here.
Exactly. And also, Perlmutter, he was just like the head of Marvel. He wasn't the head of Disney. Yeah. So that was completely night and day situation, apples and oranges.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And also, they just didn't have the personality of Chapek, who is a guy that stays in the shadows and prefers to be underestimated until he has to act.
Mm. And then, Tom, you have to say the name here.
Rod Thunderheart.
And he says for $5, Hail, Andre, Tom, and Kamran. I love your Midnight's Edge in the morning shows and look forward to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Kamran, I love your reporting on Patreon. You absolutely rock.
Wow, that means a lot to me. Thank you, Rod. And you know, whenever I come on this channel, I get all these boosts to my Patreons because so many of my Patrons come from here. So thank you for the Midnight's Edge community, and I hope some more will join today.
Yes, absolutely. Go and check out Kamran's Patreon. He is so active. There is so much content. So just head on over. You will not regret it. And Corsair Raven says for $2, anyone planning to even see the Eternals? I'm not. And also on the topic of the Eternals, Valiant Renegade, he evidently took a look at the leaked synopsis, and he says for $4.99, there's nothing worth spoiling anyway, folks.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the vibe.
That's kind of true. And Taker610 says for $2, I thought Disney already recast Spider-Man. If you mean Tom Holland, yeah, there's not going to be another one anytime soon. STR Red Wolf says for $5, Hulk smash like button, and you should too. Obligatory.
We're almost at 1,000. Look, let's get a. We just need 21 more. We're at 1,000.
Yeah, come on, that's good.
Just hit it.
Let's get us to 1,000.
Press that button.
Yeah, do that. Push the button. While you do that, Comrade Roof Korean the Based said for $5, I'm black-pilled on Disney. World War II Disney was the government propaganda arm. Now communism's on a revenge tour with, I don't even want to say the name, the High Priest of the Science documentary. Yeah. Propaganda back on the menu.
Well, I mean, again, but you know, that, like I said, that, you know, and you know, Six and others in the chat have said there's become a political subtext to this channel in recent weeks. We can't avoid it because our lives are being infected and the industry is being affected by these politics. So, you know, the industry has, as I said, the industry has to keep pushing this narrative from the high priest of health issues, right? And
exactly, and we're dealing with the corporate politics, so it's difficult to avoid.
And as I said, a very powerful, producer sat down with me just a few days ago and said, I just want to go back to normal, but I got to go along with this because otherwise I might get booted out. I might be identified as a heretic, or in that moment in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the scream, at the end. And so this guy's got power, and he's got the influence to tell people, look, can we all just stop acting crazy? Can we all stop pretending we all believe this? None of us believe any of this. We don't. But they're all afraid to say that. He sort of knew that he could say that with me because I've been pretty open about my heretical beliefs. But he can't risk revealing that to anybody else. The whole town is trapped.
Exactly. That's the prison of belief. And we made it to 1,000 likes. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
You're loyal. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
And we are going to go through the rest of the super chats here. Then we have Icthulu, who says for $5, Feige has already lost his way. He let the Marvel brand die a slow, unrecoverable death since Infinity. How long till he's held accountable? Well, that depends on how loyal he is to Chapek.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he may be setting himself up for his own accountability, right? I think he's already. I mean, the move he did this summer was so stupid. It was so even Kathleen Kennedy didn't move against Chapek. She moved against an annoying person to her. To her, she was a pawn. Gina Carano discovered she wasn't dealing with a pawn, but she wasn't stupid enough to go up against Chapek, especially because I don't think she's got the scandal leverage that she might have on other people on this guy. He's just not part of their community and hanging out at those parties and doing that stuff, right? So she didn't go against him. When I saw Feige start doing it this summer, I was like, oh man, this is what's happening here. This is a dude who's drunk with his own story. He doesn't know what he's dealing with, and that's played out that way. So I think Mr. Feige is going to have a few more slaps, and we'll see if he continues in Disney next year. I don't know. If he really surrenders like Tom thinks he's surrendering, he'll be okay. If he makes one more move, he's done.
Yeah. And then Vololos says for 5,000 Chilean pesos, muchas gracias. I think it's more possible that a new movie and entertainment industry bloom before seeing Hollywood abandoning the woke and political propaganda. They're going to die with their boots on. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Certainly that was a trend we're in. I think someone like a Chappelle has woken up the town and made them realize that whether they like it or not, the audience isn't with this movement. And some people are, after 2 years of being broke and having our industry going through this horrific carnage, self-created carnage in many ways, people just want to make money right now. Everyone's trying not to get fired. So it's just, that's where we are. I think we have a chance to put this back on track.
Yeah. And Tom, you have to say the name again.
Rod Thunderheart.
And he says for another $5 Canadian, hail Midnight's Edge in the morning. Saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Loved it. They made it a wise move, turning it into a buddy comedy. I admit the third act was just okay. Well, I still look forward to seeing it in a month and a half when it opens here.
Well, I didn't see this one. I didn't have any interest in seeing the second one. So
yeah. And Michael Miller says for 35 South African rounds. Last week we nearly spoke about Viacom politics and implosion. Topic changed though. Can we do so now? Sorry, Michael, we can't. We're out of time here. But I promise you, there'll be a Star Trek video real soon, and we're gonna get back into Viacom. But we don't have the time for it right now because we have to end here because I have to put some kids to bed and stuff. So yeah. Then Chris Catman said for $15, I have been missing your live streams due to work, but have been catching archived replay here to keep the lights on. Oh, thank you, Chris. Really appreciate that. And also, if you should miss a link and stuff, head on over to Midnight's Edge Live Archives. That's where you'll find all the previous live shows. And Kaiju King Gabriel says for $2, where does Apollo 13 fall into this? Yeah, and we got this one. 2 flights after the Apollo 11. And then we got this one. Mech 1164 said for $5. Since we're talking about the beginning of the space race, I'd like to add to watch The Right Stuff. Shows the people who got us there. Indeed. Yeah, that's maybe one to consider. Action wonders, speaking of old versus new, Andre, how's the new Das Boot series? Thank you for reminding me. I have to see it. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Okay. I intend to do so. I've seen the original Das Boot, and it's fantastic. The new one still haven't seen, and the music's freaking awesome. Mags says for $5, have you guys seen the documentary series Apollo 11 on the Daily Wire? It's really good. Okay, makes me admire the bravery of everyone involved even more. I have not. Thanks for the tip.
I wasn't aware of it, but thank you for letting me know. I'm a huge fan of that era and of Apollo 11 in particular. So yeah.
Yeah. Jim Vatari says for $20, have you guys seen Apple TV's For All Mankind series? Ron Moore's alternate history of the space race where the Russians land on the moon first.
Mhm.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. It seems really good, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
I mean, the thing is, people were initially nervous because here it is. It's about women going to the moon now, and so there's that agenda. But Ron Moore is Ron Moore. He's a storyteller above all, and so I definitely think it helps sell his project when his thing is like, well, we're going to tell the story from women's point of view, right? And women now have to catch up to, if we can't put the first man on the moon, the Russians did it. What if we put the first woman?
And the Russians beat them to that too.
Yeah, but but that's Ron Moore. Ron Moore, and I've met Ron Moore. I've been on a panel with him. I'm a huge fan of his Battlestar Galactica. He's a genius storyteller. So I haven't seen this, but anything he does is going to have magic to it because he's not coming from a political perspective. He's always coming from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, indeed. And then we had a final super chat here from Mecha Jade, someone can bring up on screen, who says Feige needs to keep his ego in check if he knows what's good for him and his position. And this is so true. Very, very true. And with that,
wow.
We are fully caught up. So then I would like to say thank you to Kamran for coming and joining us today. Always a pleasure.
So thank you so much.
Everyone, do check out Kamran's Patreon. The link for that is, as always, in the description in addition to your website.
Please do. Your support helps me survive this town and be able to tell my agents, no, I'm not going to take that project. I don't need to. And that allows me to break free of the system to a degree. So thank you.
Yeah. And also, I would like to say thank you to everyone in the chat. You're amazing for coming here, supporting us, being part of the community. We couldn't do what we do without you guys. So thank you so much for that. And Tom, where are you off to right now? And maybe people can follow you there.
I'm off to FNT Kids. So with that, here is some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koala, koala. Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given.